Before we begin, I invite you to gently close your ears and focus on what remains when all external sounds fade away. It's like sitting in a quiet room, and after a while, you notice a subtle ringing or hum beneath the silence. If you listen closely, you'll start to experience this soft, constant presence, something that feels like the very fabric of reality itself. In quantum physics, it's said that everything is connected at the most fundamental level, and that everything we see is just a manifestation of deeper, unseen energy. What you are hearing, or rather feeling, is that same energy, that same field of potential. This subtle ringing is what we call the sound of silence. It's not just an abstract concept or some external force. It's the very essence of you. Everything we discuss in this session, and the ones to come, will be about this sound of silence. It is not something separate or different from you. It is you. This exploration is about realizing that the sound of silence is your own inner being, your most fundamental nature, the stillness from which all life arises. You are that, the very presence behind everything. To fully grasp this concept, we need to develop a subtle intellect that can see things as they are, like the sound of silence. The realization that a significant part of the work is done when we begin to understand this is profound. The real work is self-inquiry, and everything else is peripheral. The ultimate goal should be absolute freedom. It's crucial to realize that if something wrong is being done, it's you who are doing it. If you do not recognize that you are inherently free, you will continue to make mistakes. The body and mind are imperfect by nature, and it is in their nature to err. Both right and wrong exist within the mind, and we are witnesses to this process. However, we must continually question the nature of the I until we effortlessly stabilize in that inquiry. The questioning should not be done with the expectation of an answer, because that approach becomes a trap. If you seek an answer, it will be based on your prior knowledge, and you'll construct an understanding rooted in that, which will limit you to imagination. Instead, the inquiry of "who am I?" should deepen continuously, almost like a mantra. Keep asking without expecting an answer, and eventually it will transform your consciousness. This process works like the law of attraction, but it's more accurately directional thinking. By aligning your actions with your thoughts, you're bound to achieve results. Once you begin to act in this way, results will come inevitably, because the most important aspect is consistency. Understanding this requires patience, persistence, and a readiness to act swiftly when necessary. This process is not about running from one place to another physically, but about staying where you are mentally. Impatience will only hinder progress. The more you chase external solutions, the further away you move from the real answer, which is already present. The constant running prevents us from seeing what is right in front of us. We often get caught up in thoughts of what should be rather than observing what is. Developing the patience to observe without rushing to conclusions is crucial. This is what is called titiksha, the cultivation of patience. In this state, you learn to absorb things deeply, so they stick with you rather than understanding things superficially, which leads to fleeting knowledge. Understanding this process is much like understanding physics. Just as you can't grasp physics instantly by simply being told an equation, you can't understand the subjective nature of existence through a casual explanation. In the objective world, we study things deeply to understand them. The same depth is required in the subjective world, where the real essence lies not in what is seen, but in the one who sees. The duality between the seen and the seer is the root of all confusion. Like an audience watching a movie on a screen, we are affected by what we see, but the deeper truth is that what is seen is separate from us. The real task is to understand the subtle difference between the self and the non-self. This realization begins with recognizing that everything we perceive is inherently part of the self. Initially, you might think, "This is me and that is not me," but as your understanding deepens, you'll begin to see that everything is a reflection of the self. As you progress in this understanding, the realization comes that the observer, or the I, is larger than anything it observes. Inside your mind, you can contain images of vast landscapes, mountains, or even the entire universe. Yet, This doesn't physically overwhelm the brain because the mind has the capacity to hold these enormous images. This demonstrates that the mind, or the observer, is bigger than what it perceives. Gradually, this realization gives you confidence, and you begin to understand that you are not just the person you see in the mirror. The real you is the one who sees, and this one can choose whether to engage with what it observes or not. It's a matter of choice whether the things you see affect you. For example, if you change your perspective on a negative situation, that same situation will stop affecting you negatively. This shift in perspective reveals the power of the witness, the drashta, within you. As this realization deepens, you begin to see that the observer and the observed are not fundamentally different. The material you are seeing is not separate from the one who is seeing it. Everything is interconnected, and this is the key to a profound understanding. Once you reach this point, there is nothing left to do. This realization leads to what is called the absolute desire, a sense of wisdom where you no longer feel compelled to act based on external influences. You recognize that the source of real happiness lies in this understanding, which is beyond the temporary highs and lows of life. The inquiry into who am I becomes the only tool you need. It gradually transforms your perception and leads you to the ultimate realization of your true nature. The work doesn't happen all at once, but step by step. The tool that remains constant throughout the process is the inquiry, who am I? This inquiry, known as self-inquiry, is the central method of deepening your understanding. Asking this question is not easy, as it's a significant challenge, but it is the most direct path to truth. I speak from experience, not from theory, because I too was once running from this question. I was walking the spiritual path, but I avoided asking who am I because it felt too daunting. However, everything else I thought about was secondary to this question. When you start to look within, you will realize that you rarely ask this question of yourself. It's the one thing we need to ask, but we often don't. This question needs to permeate every aspect of our lives. Everywhere you go, in every situation, you should be asking, who am I? This question should become your constant companion, especially in moments of comfort when you are tempted to rest on your laurels. Engaging with the sound of silence and the realization that you've done the work can feel satisfying, but it's crucial to question who it is that feels satisfied. The same person who felt discomfort earlier is now feeling good. Why? Because of a temporary experience like the sound of silence? These fleeting experiences create illusions that we cling to, but they do not provide lasting happiness. The real inquiry shatters these illusions and brings you back to the essential question, who am I? If you haven't asked this question yet, you've merely been escaping from the real issue. All other pursuits, whether they involve the body, mind, or external success, are just distractions from this inquiry. Your body, mind, and even your financial security should be aligned to support this inquiry. Once you start asking this question and remain steadfast in your pursuit, clarity will come, and you will see the difference between the self and the non-self. This clarity is the foundation of true wisdom.